extremists.
Unplanned, the controversial new anti-abortion film is facing some new problems despite its major debut at the box office.
Dillon up ahead, Winston, no one near him, and he's going to come out with it, and Michigan State is headed to Minneapolis.
New York City, and if you live here, you're going to be paying a lot more money. And if you come here as a tourist, you're actually going to be paying a lot more, too.
We just want to keep taxing you until you stop coming. And people stop living here.
Hey, listen, by the way, if somebody tells you something today that just seems too unbelievable, don't believe it. It's April 1st, April Fool's Day. Everybody, thanks for joining us live.
I hope we don't have anything planned. No surprises during our show, right? One year, I remember taking that box off and Brian was hiding underneath the table. Scared me to death. Yeah.
So anyway, what's going to happen in the next 3 hours? You're going to have to stick around to find out. Meanwhile, we leave things off with a Fox News alert.
That's right. President Trump could shut down the U.S.-Mexico border this week as the administration is cutting off funding to 3 Central American countries.
It certainly isn't a bluff. You can take the president seriously. We're on track this month for close to 100,000. We have never seen a surge like this.
So here we go. Desperate times, desperate measures. Griff Jenkins joins us live from Washington to break it all down. Hey, Griff, if anyone knows the border and the problem, it's you. But now everyone seems to realize we're in a crisis.
Well, you know, it's just a story after story of more and more migrants coming in when the president says he's going to close the border. He is not bluffing. Acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney explains why.
Why are we talking about closing the border? Because not for spite and not to try and undo what's happening, but to simply say, look, we need the people from the ports of entry to go out and patrol in the desert where we don't have any wall.
And here are the facts. CBP says currently 40% of their agents are being diverted from the border security mission to care for family units and children. But closing the border could have a heavy economic impact. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce warns it could affect the $1.7 billion of daily cross-border trade. But these numbers, again, are startling, on pace for over 100,000 apprehensions for the month of March. But as of last night, guys, my sources in the Border Patrol say in just the Rio Grande Valley sector alone for the past 9 straight days, they've seen more than 1,000 apprehensions per day. That's a caravan essentially a day, most of them coming from the area known as the Northern Triangle, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. The president says he is cutting $500 million of aid to these countries. And the president last night took a shot at Mexico, and Democrats are not doing enough, saying the Democrats are allowing a ridiculous asylum system and major loopholes to remain as the mainstay of our immigration system. Mexico is likewise doing nothing, a very bad combination for our country. Homeland Security is being so very nice, but not for long. Mexican officials, by the way, said yesterday they plan today to start revamping their humanitarian visa program for 2,500 migrants in southern Mexico on a limited basis. You will remember, guys, it was shut down earlier due to overwhelming numbers across Mexico's southern border.
It was. All right, Griff, thank you very much. You set it up perfectly. We've been talking for a while. There's a humanitarian crisis at our southern border. And if the president were to close our southern border, it would cause an economic crisis as well, because there's so much that goes between our two countries. The auto parts that go to make the American cars that are built in Mexico, all the food that is trafficking between the United States and Mexico and Central America. So, there's a real good possibility that if the president did close the border, it would disrupt the supply chains for car makers. It would trigger swift price increases for grocery stores. There could be layoffs. It could impact a lot of the states that the president won in 2016. But see, I think he knows that. I think he knows that there would be economic consequences. And this is just a play to get Mexico and the Triangle countries, that is to say, to do something, because it's up to them.
Well, Mick Mulvaney was talking about the problem, and he says he blames the Democrats because they won't give him the money. They won't give him additional money, additional people. They won't change the laws. We had a panel on, what was it, last week or the week before, of all women, and they were Border Patrol agents, and they were all saying, we need more people. We need more agents. So what they're having to do is take agents from the port of entries and then place them in areas like the desert where there aren't any walls because they don't have the extra money to hire more people.
So the McAllen City manager, Roy Rodriguez, said this to USA Today. It's staggering, really. We've never seen anything like this before. The numbers don't lie. They're expected over 100,000 illegals this month, 65,000 last month. Senator Lindsey Graham weighed in yesterday.
What are we supposed to do? You have the Mexican government allowing thousands of people to walk all across Mexico. Mexico could help more. They should help more. The Triangle countries, 70% of the people coming here illegally come from 3 countries. We need those countries to help more. So if the president feels like that the only way to control this problem is to move the people from the port of entry to the ungoverned spaces where we need a wall, I will support him. I hope we don't have to do that. To my Democratic friends, let's sit down and change these laws that entice people to come here legally.
The president's tweet over the weekend was 100% right. He said these are asylum laws that can be solved very quickly. They got to come together in this. And maybe a turning point was Jeh Johnson. When Jeh Johnson, the former Homeland Security Secretary, said a couple of days ago, listen, there is a crisis at our border. There's no question about it. These numbers are really concerning. Yeah. That gives Democrats cover to say, hey, we got no choice. After all, the wall decision's been decided. Whether you like it or not, it's in the courts and it's actually being built. Whether they're taking money, let them debate it in their committee meetings. So the most controversial part for Democrats was the wall. It shouldn't be controversial to stem the tide of illegals coming in. Doesn't mean they're not great people. It means that we got to set up a system that's going to make it orderly to get in and out.
But the problem is that would give Democrats would be handing Donald Trump a win. Look, not only did he get a wall, but he also got a win as well. You know, I think, if I had to guess, it would be easier to get Mexico and the Triangle countries to do something than to get our own Congress to get together on the same page.
Well, we'll have to see. Also in the news, the Attorney General, William Barr, said he's going to release the full Mueller report in 2 weeks or sooner. And the media is hitting him so hard for this. It's ridiculous. Look at some of these headlines. Forbes says why Barr's delay in releasing the Mueller report is unprecedented and unreasonable. Politico says William Barr can't hide the Mueller report.
Like people are trying to, and this is incredible because they've set up a artificial deadline of this Tuesday to deliver the 300-plus pages. Maybe it's 400 now.
Tomorrow, yeah.
That's so Tuesday. And then he says, no, I'll get it to you in the middle of April. And then doubling down as Nadler says, no, I'm not backing off my date. You back off your date. He's not done yet. You got to redact. You got to care about people's security. And there's portions of this are just not going to be released. As Trey Gowdy brought up earlier, I'm not going to break the law because Jerry Nadler's frustrated that he didn't get the outcome he seems to want to get, and that's proof that what he believes the president corroborating with Russia. Here's Don Jr. yesterday, who sat down on Media Buzz and said, listen, this whole coverage has been so skewed, and they got major things wrong, especially on my Trump Tower meeting. Watch.
I think there were some people that tried to actually be fair. When they were actually fair, you'd see the other side just try to just obliterate that. They lost their followings, they get ratioed, the heck, you know, it became a business model for most media to attack Donald Trump and to buy into this narrative. And if you didn't, you upset a lot of people and risked your career, you risked other things. They did a terrible disservice to this country, to journalism as a profession. I think they've done irreparable damage to the faith that the average American is going to have in terms of mainstream journalism. I think it's a blight on our republic, on democracy, and on our Constitution that's not going to come undone very quickly.
Right, and I think the average American understands there have to be things that are going to be redacted, grand jury testimony, things that are confidential and classified, so they're okay with that. But Democrats need some cover. They need to be able to say, look, here's this 300, 400-page thing, and a bunch of the stuff's blacked out. What secrets are they keeping from us?
All right,
President feels vindicated, though, because he tweeted out last week, he said, fake news media going crazy, suffering major breakdown, zero credibility, and corrupt.
All right, so a lot of you are concerned about high taxes, so you move out of your high-tax state. Our studio's here, so we're coming to work every day. And guess what? We're going to be paying additional prices. So now New York's idea to raise more revenue because they're overstretched because our social programs are too big and unwieldy, they've decided they have ways to make ends meet. And guess what? It's going to cost all of us money in every way, shape, or form.
That's right. Screen left, you see the toll tax. That's a congestion pricing. We're the first in the nation between $11 and $12 per car, $25 per truck. A study says it's going to cost $133 for each 18-wheeler hauling food and goods into Manhattan.
So you're going to get paid to sit in traffic.
Man, that means everybody in
Or
New
you're
York
going to
is
pay.
more.
Sorry, you're going to pay to sit in traffic.
But then again, if you can live here, you live in a nice house.
And there's going to be a mansion tax on Manhattan homes that sell for $25 million or more. By the way, rich people make decisions that rich people make. They'll go elsewhere. You'll have less mansion owners.
There's going to be an internet sales tax, and if you shop at any store in New York, you can't take your goods home in plastic bags. They're banned.
So the single-use plastic bag is gone. You can bring your own recycled bag, but what they're going to do is they're going to charge you 3 cents per paper bag. But then the locals and the mayor here has already said, I'm going to tack 2 more cents on. So it's a nickel per paper bag just to get your groceries.
And here's how stupid this is. Because when people come into the city, they're not doing it because they want to go see a Broadway show. They're going to deliver food. They're delivering goods. They're helping out to hotels, delis, bodegas. And guess what happens? They have very little margin of profit. So they're going to have to jack up their food prices on everyday blue-collar people who want to get a ham sandwich or a turkey sandwich with mayo or a wrap. They're going to charge more for that because it costs more to deliver that. It's going to be a cascading hit on everybody, and nobody gains. You get more money to pay into an abyss.
Wrong. You know who gains? Florida. New Yorkers are up here. It's kind of like, why am I paying so much in taxes? And it's just a hassle to live here.
It's such an expensive city already.
Let's go to Florida.
It's just getting pricier.
Right.
Anyway, what do you think about that? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. We are also on Facebook.
I shouldn't have bought all those mansions, I guess.
I know. Might as well sell them.
Jillian, when you commute, you got to come into the city above 60th Street.
Right, exactly.
Because then you don't get the tax.
Jeez.
Or swim
ridiculous.
across the river.
I'll do that, yes.
Yeah.
Take the train
sounds so
across
easy.
the river.
All right, let's get caught up on your news, starting with this Fox News alert right now. And 2 Marine pilots are killed in a helicopter crash during a routine training mission in Arizona. The pilots were flying an AH-1Z Viper at the Marine Air Corps Station near Yuma. The Marines are notifying families before releasing the names of those pilots. No word on what caused the crash. Today, Chicago police officers will protest outside the prosecutor's office for the handling of the Jussie Smollett case. The union wants the FBI to intervene following Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx's decision to dismiss all 16 felony charges. The Empire actor is accused of faking a racist hate crime against himself in January. Reverend Jesse Jackson, among others, are planning a dueling rally in support of Fox today. Let's go to March Madness, where shocking upsets set the stage for the Final Four.
If you're Duke, once he gives it up, face guard, and don't overhelp. Open look,
Oh, man. Michigan State getting a clutch 3-pointer with under a minute to go. The Spartans take down top overall seed Duke 68-67. And Auburn is heading to their first ever Final Four after beating Kentucky 77-71 in overtime. Send it back to you.
That's a big deal.
Thanks, Jillian.
Yep.
Thank
It's
you.
madness. All right. Meanwhile, President Trump turning his focus to health care. So what needs to be fixed right now? That is a conversation you're going to hear next right here on Fox and Friends. President Trump says the Republican Party will soon be known as the party of health care. So this week, we're taking a look at what needs to be done right now to make this system work for everybody.
Here to kick off our series is co-founder and president of the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity, Avik Roy. Avik, great to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Ainsley, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So tell us about the healthcare system. What is broken, first of all?
Well, a lot of things are broken, but what it comes down to at the end of the day is healthcare in America is too expensive for everybody. That's why so many people are uninsured. That's why so many people struggle with their bills. And it's the federal government over 70 years that has made it so expensive.
Sure. My daughter's got Obamacare, and she can't afford to use it. I mean, the premiums are through the roof. She never meets them. She winds up paying out of pocket. It's not how it's supposed to work. So, Avik, what should, and maybe some lawmakers are watching right now, what could be done here in the United States to fix it?
Well, the first thing to know is the president, when he campaigned for president, when he became president, he promised that his health care plan would ensure that every American can have affordable health care, that we'd have health care for everybody. And there are plans out there that do that. Bruce Westerman, a representative from Arkansas, has put out a plan called the Fair Care Act that tackles a lot of the problems with our health care system. Again, the things that make it so expensive. Tackles high hospital prices, high prescription drug costs, and the high cost of insurance, both in Obamacare and for other people who get insurance through more traditional means.
What can Republicans do to actually become the party of health care?
Well, you got to tackle hospital monopolies, which are a big problem driving healthcare costs up. You got to tackle the high cost of prescription drugs, which the Trump administration is doing a lot to tackle. And you've got to give people more control over their own healthcare dollars so they're not actually subject to all these regulations that drive up the cost of health insurance, both for Obamacare and for people, again, not on Obamacare.
Okay, so on the Democratic side, when Bernie Sanders and others say we're for, Obamacare, Medicare for all, it sounds great, but is that doable?
Well, what they're supporting is not actually Medicare. It's a single payer plan that would be very different from the way Medicare works today. You know, about half of every class that graduates into 65 and gets on Medicare today, they're choosing private insurance. They're not choosing government-run insurance. The program called Medicare Advantage is the program where all the growth in Medicare enrollment is. So actually, Bernie Sanders' plan would take that away from people. And so the real solution, I think the solution that Republicans support, is one that builds on what Medicare Advantage does well, using private insurers to compete against each other so that the quality of your coverage is better.
All right. Ovik, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks a lot, Ainsley.
You're welcome. 20 minutes after the top of the hour, Jane Fonda protested the Vietnam War. Now Hanoi. Jane just got inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame, but that move could cost them big time.
Plus, General Joseph Dunford's sounding the alarm about Russia and China.
They've developed capabilities intended to contest our movement across all domains and disrupt our ability to project power.
Retired General David Perkins says he's absolutely right. He's going to tell us how we can return to dominance. Coming up next. Good morning to you, sir.
Here's some quick headlines for you. If given the chance, President Trump would replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg with Judge Amy Coney Barrett. According to Axios, the president has been saving the young conservative judge for the seat. It might not ever happen, though. It is unlikely that Justice Ginsburg will retire. And the National Women's Hall of Fame could be losing funding after inducting Jane Fonda. Town leaders in Seneca Falls, New York, are citing the actress's controversial views on the Vietnam War. Fonda has acknowledged making a mistake by posing on an anti-aircraft gun in 1972. The town council votes tomorrow. Brian?
All right, thank you. 24 minutes now after the hour. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Joe Dunford warning that Russia and China's efforts to dominate the U.S. could mean trouble straight ahead.
China and Russia have capitalized on our distraction and restraints by investing in capabilities specifically designed to challenge our traditional sources of strength. After careful study, they've developed capabilities intended to contest our movement across all domains, sea, air, space, cyberspace, and land, and disrupt our ability to project power.
Are we losing our competitive edge? And did you sense some real concern there amongst our top brass? Joining us now, retired Army four-star general, just retired, and former commander of the U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command, General Dave Perkins is back with us. General, great to see you.
Hey, Brian, good to see you as well.
So General Dunford saying, look out, everybody. They're catching up, and they're stealing what?
General Dunford nailed it on the head. They understand our adversaries, our potential adversaries, realize what we do better than anybody else is we can deploy power, we can sustain it, and we operate across all domains, air, sea, space, cyberspace, land, like nobody else does. So you can see a lot of investment, specifically by Russia and China, in areas that would prevent us from operating and synchronizing those domains, which is why right before I retired, the command I was with, we put out a new operational construct called multi-domain operations to make sure we maintain dominance in
What
that.
do you mean by domain? What are you talking about? Areas?
Domains that we operate in, like air is a domain, lane is a domain, cyberspace, space. And what we have to do is not just bookend ourselves into one domain, but operate across all of them and synchronize all of them together.
He went on to say, he says that China and Russia are capitalizing on our distractions and restraints by investing in capabilities specifically designed to challenge our traditional sources of strength. We've, for the last 2 years, put $750 billion plus into military. Aren't we trying to stay ahead?
Where we are working very hard at it. When our nation invests in the military, there's kind of like three big pots of money we're trying to balance. I think General Dunford's, dealing with that aspect of it, that you have your force structure that you have to maintain, people, their health care salaries. Then you have training. You've got to keep everyone trained. And then there's the modernization piece. And that's what we're focusing on now, the modernization piece.
You said we also need private sector. They got to help out with our innovation. And we got to set up better systems to allow our innovators to innovate, because that's what we do better than China and Russia on their best day.
Exactly. We innovate better than anybody else in the world. Just about everybody else
and they
copies
steal
them,
better than anybody
and
else.
they steal better than everybody else. We have to change our focus of innovation. During the Cold War, we would innovate to create a differentiation because we had a known problem. Russia, we would differentiate from Russia. Now we have to change our innovation to increase the rate of innovation. Technology of the field more quickly updated. We can't have, you used to hear the term third generational fighter, fourth generational tank, because it would take a generation to update it. We have to be much faster.
This Silken Road thing that they have going now, China wants to get their influence. How much does it concern you that Italy said, we told Italy not to get involved, and they're getting involved? How much does it concern you that we told Poland not to take this Chinese 5G company in, not to take this company on, and they did anyway?
Well, they see a great strength of the U.S. is our access to world markets as well as access to political systems, and we have great allies. Just recently deployed, I believe, 6 B-52s to Europe as a show of strength to do interoperational exercises. Well, they're being based in Europe, which means we have political support there. We're getting, basing rights, fuel, et cetera, like that. They are trying to mimic that and get some kind of coalition support there as well.
But they don't have the moral base we have. They're trying to come in and just bribe people where we have a history with them. I hope our allies are smart about it because we cannot tell them what to do. We hope they make the right decision.
Well, again, that is what we have going for us is we are a trusted ally and we are a tested ally, and we have been there during the worst of times for them. And I think that has always played to our benefit.
He's a retired 4-star general, just getting used to the word retired. You have to pick out your own clothes now. People don't tell you what to wear.
All new stresses, Brian. All new stresses.
You're home, building a house over in New Hampshire. Great to see you, General. Hopefully we do this regularly.
Thanks,
I know
Brian.
you're still following things, General Dave Perkins. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, this picture of Joe Biden with former Defense Secretary Ash Carter's wife making the rounds again. So what really is going on here? This morning, she is setting the record straight. And President Trump threatening to close the border this week, maybe as soon as today, over this migrant surge. Is that the right move? We have a panel, and I have a sense that is our panel, and they'll be with us in a matter of moments.
They have the strongest immigration laws anywhere in the world, and we have the weakest, the most pathetic laws. Number one, Congress has to act, and number two, Mexico, they make so much money from the United States, they have to grab it and they have to stop it. They can stop them, but they chose not to. Now they're going to stop them, and if they don't stop them, we're closing the border. They'll close it, and we'll keep it closed for a long time. I'm not playing games.
He is not playing games. A Fox News alert, President Trump threatening to shut the southern border as soon as today, cutting aid to 3 Central American countries over the surge of migrants flooding our system in unprecedented numbers. Here to weigh in, our panel of experts. President of the National Border Patrol Council, screen left, Brandon Judd, along with retired ICE Director, Fox News contributor Tom Homan, and former ICE agent Mark Kelly. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Brandon, let's start with you. You think it's a good idea for the president to close the southern border? No doubt there's a crisis there, but should he, essentially just say, you know what, we're closed for business now?
No, it sends the right message. It lets Mexico know that if they do not actually do something, if they don't play their part, then we're going to stunt their economy, basically. Look, there's a lot of trade that goes through those ports of entry, and if you shut down those ports of entry, that's going to hurt Mexico's economy. And if you punch somebody in the pocketbook, you're going to get a reaction.
Right, but there's going to be a price because it's going to punch us in the pocketbook.
It is, but we can make that back up. But again, you have to these are extraordinary times, and you have to take extraordinary measures. Look, there's another way. Stephen Miller, a great policy advisor with President Trump, he's actually proposed a new initiative. I've got an op-ed in the Washington Times that explains what this initiative is. We can do it with our current laws, as long as you train the Border Patrol agents to be asylum officers to do that credible fear interview, we can get them through the process. Right now, it takes about 2 to 5 years to deport somebody. If you train Border Patrol agents to be asylum officers and give that credible fear interview initially, we can get the deportations done in 10 days rather than 2 to 5 years.
Well, that would be great. Tom, you're a little tougher than Brandon is. You say close it now.
I say, look, I think that's what makes this president such a great president. He's going to do whatever he can to secure this nation and protect the American people. And he's done it. Look, he's tried to stop asylum seekers from entering illegally between the ports of entry. Of course, the Ninth Circuit shut that down. He declared a national emergency, and he even had to fight someone within his own party to do that. And now he'll close the border down. Look, President Reagan did it over the death of one DEA agent, which is a terrible tragedy. But how many American citizens have died at the hands of criminal aliens? 70,000 overdose deaths last year from opioids that come across that border. You know, it's this president's going to act, and I think he's doing the right thing. And as Brandon said earlier, yeah, it's going to hurt. But, you know, these types of actions are necessary to secure the border. Congress has let this president down. Congress has failed the American people for 3 decades to secure this border. This president made a commitment to the American people. I'll do what I can to protect America. He's doing exactly what they elected him to do. He's doing exactly what a president should do.
Mark, as a former ICE guy, you know that in many cases the agents' hands are tied because the laws need to change. And it seems like the president is probably more likely to get Mexico and the Triangle countries to do something before he can get his own U.S. Congress to agree to change the law.
That appears to be the case. And I mean, clearly, I defer to Tom and Brandon have a lot more experience on the border. But I think it's obvious to anybody that there's a problem here. There's a huge problem. It's a national security problem. And there has to be action taken. And to me, closing the border might be a drastic method, but I think we may be at the point where we need to be drastic.
Brandon, why is it, you know, if we could do what you were talking about earlier in 10 days and deport somebody in 10 days, why aren't we doing it?
It's a new idea that just came up. We were looking within the laws. Again, Stephen Miller was digging deep into the laws. What can we actually do under current authority that isn't going to take Congress? Let's cut Congress out of the process because we already have authorities that are on the book. Let's work within those authorities. Let's get done what we need to get done. If this gets implemented, if we actually do it, then we will be able to end catch and release once and for all. And that's the magnet that invites people and draws people to cross the border illegally. If we get rid of that magnet, we will stop illegal immigration.
Well, there's other things. I agree with Brian 100%. We talked about this in the green room, but there's other things that can be done that we're not doing. I've said it for a couple weeks now. ICE needs to get out there and do a nationwide operation to look for family units and single adults who had due process at great taxpayer expense and been ordered removed. 9 out of 10 of the people claiming a fear at the border do not get relief because they have a fraudulent claim to asylum. They don't qualify. So once the federal judge orders that removal order, ICE needs to execute that order, or there's no integrity in the entire system. What's happening right now in Central America, it's a win-win. You go to the United States, 10% chance you'll win your case. The 90% don't win the case, they're not coming home. So it's a win-win. We got to show consequences. The reason I'm so adamant about this, because I did this 3.5 years ago. We did a nationwide operation. And guess what happened? We sent plane full of family units back home. The crossings went down because we showed there's a consequence. There has to be a consequence.
We deport a lot of people, I'm sorry, but we deport a lot of people in absentia. If they're not there to actually be physically removed from the country, if they disappear into the shadows of society, which is what they do, the moment they get released, they take off those bands that they have supposed to track them, and they disappear. They get deported in absentia, but if there's not a body there to send them back, then they stay here.
Mark, I'll give you the final word as a former ICE agent.
Yeah, what Tom mentions is absolutely correct, and I think we're naive if we think that this word does not get out to the various countries where these people are coming from. They know that if they come, if they know when they come, there's no repercussions. They'll continue to come. The only way to stem that is to show that when a judge orders you removed, you will be removed.
All right.
End of story.
Let's see what the president does. He says he's not playing games. But then again, neither are you guys. It's a big problem. We got to do something about it. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
discussion.
you.
All right, 20 minutes before the top there, Jillian's got some new news.
That's right, and good morning. And a tragic story that we've been following. An emotional vigil for the college student murdered after getting into the wrong car, thinking it was her Uber. Samantha Josephson's dad making a really emotional plea.
You guys have to travel together. And I don't want anybody else to ever go through this again. I can't tell you how painful this is.
Surveillance video shows the 21-year-old University of South Carolina student getting into the car. Her body was found in a rural area. A man is being held on murder and kidnapping charges. The wife of former Defense Secretary Ash Carter is calling this 2015 photo of her and former Vice President Joe Biden misleading. Stephanie Carter writing, quote, "The Joe Biden in my picture is a close friend, someone helping get me through a big day for which I will always be grateful." It comes as a former Assemblywoman accuses Biden of inappropriately kissing the back of her head during a 2014 rally. Biden responding saying, quote, "I never did I believe I acted inappropriately. If it is suggested I did so, I will listen respectfully." We told you about this story last week, and now I have an update. A 23rd horse has died since December at a California racetrack 2 days after it reopens. A 5-year-old gelding fell during a race at Santa Anita yesterday, injuring its right front leg and had to be euthanized. Officials tested the dirt course while it was closed over the past month, but did not find anything. Workouts continue today, and racing resumes Thursday. A college softball announcer calls a big win, but is he happy about it? You be the judge.
The pitch swung over the second baseman's head out to the field. Knaus is running home, and Montana walks off. First baseman Cammie Sellers.
Oh, the announcer not really showing much emotion as the University of Montana wins against Idaho State in extra innings. I don't know who the announcer is. The voice kind of sounds young, so maybe he just needs a little more experience. It's a student. Okay, there we go. You gotta learn. All right. They're commenting. We got to go outside to Janice. There's a lot happening. A lot of reaction to this one, Janice. Good morning.
Happy April Fool's Day today. It is April 1st, and it feels like April Fool's because it's cold outside. Where are you from? What are your names?
Paducah, Kentucky.
Jay Strait, Paducah, Kentucky.
What's your name, love?
Ansley.
Trey from McKinney, Texas.
Nice.
Rich from Queens.
Rhode Island.
All right, Rhode Island. Let's take a look at the maps. It is cold outside, but you know what? The warm temperatures are going to be on the rise at some point. But 34 here in New York, 29 in Cincinnati, 26 in Chicago. Freeze advisories as far south as the Mid-South towards Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia. And we're watching this coastal storm develop across portions of Florida up towards the southeast. The good news is it's going to remain offshore, but we are going to see some strong winds and some heavy rain in some areas of the southeast, maybe even some snow across the Appalachians if it's cold enough. There are your temperatures across the country today. Unfortunately, we have a storm across the west coast that's going to move in, bringing quite a bit of heavy rain and snow, and then potentially more flooding rainfall for the central U.S. So that's something we're going to have to watch over the next couple of days because a lot of flooding there. All right, say hi to Steve, Ainsley, and Brian. Happy April 1st.
There you go.
Yay!
Thanks, JD. All right, straight ahead on this Monday, the new pro-life movie Unplanned had a really big box office debut this weekend, but you may not have heard about it on Twitter. The new uproar growing online overnight.
And move over, AOC. This 23-year-old Republican wants to be the youngest member of Congress, and you're going to meet him straight ahead.